Hello there, this is the second episode in our internet guide to how to film yourself playing the lute for the YouTube channel of the Lute Society. In the first episode I talked a little bit about how you can film yourself, and I hope you've put that into practice and have filmed yourself playing the lute. Now what we're going to talk about is how to edit that video. Now obviously in the old days when you shot on film you'd have a reel of film that you could then cut, and you'd cut it and splice it together again, and you could make a film that way. These days we use digital editing, and it's known as NLE, non-linear editing. We're very lucky that we can do the end and then the beginning and then go back and do the middle, and we can make changes and then change our minds and undo them and redo them until we get it perfect. Now all of these non-linear editing software systems are based on entirely the same sort of basis. So I'm going to show you how to use iMovie because that's what I have at home on my Mac, but the principles apply to any software that you use. On the PC you can use free applications like Blender or OpenShot video editing software, but the principles are the same, and I'll just talk you through how you can edit your video together. So I'm going to launch iMovie, and I'm going to do that by navigating to the Spotlight search and starting to type iMovie. There it is, hit enter, and here it is. Now don't be alarmed if you are a PC user, because all of these bits of software are basically the same. They all have slightly different functioning, but they look and act in exactly the same way. You have a library up here, you have a timeline where you can edit things, and a viewing window where you can view and modify your material up here. So first of all we need to import things into our library. I've recorded a little bit of Marco dell'Aquila, just a tiny snippet, and I'm just going to navigate to it and import it. And it's now imported into my library. I'm going to click and drag it onto my timeline where I can actually start dealing with it, down here. And everything is going to need a little bit of editing, and I'll show you why. Look, if I hit play here, on the beginning of my video is a certain amount of faffage, as I'm wondering whether I'm ready to go or not. And I want to delete that. Now actually what I've done is recorded it twice in the same video file because I wasn't that happy with the first go, and the second go is better than the first. As you can see, as I'm moving the cursor around on the timeline, I'm getting a little preview of the frame that I'm on. Now videos are made up of frames, so imagine it's like a reel of film, and within each second there will be a certain number of frames, so each second can be broken down into frames. In television it's usually 25 frames a second, for digital it's often 30 frames a second, and this video that I've filmed is 30 frames in a second. This is the duration of the video, 1 minute and 16 seconds, and within here I've got 2 iterations of that little bit of Marco that I want to edit. So I don't like the first take, I remember that when I filmed it. I do like the second take. And what I've got here, as well as the picture, is the waveform of the audio recording. And as you can see, there are humps and bumps when there's music playing, and there's nothing when there's silence. And here's some more humps and bumps. And here's probably me swearing at the end of the first one, when I wasn't happy with it. So I'm going to find the second go, and it looks like, as I'm moving the cursor, I can see that looks like a convincing start. So I'm going to click there. And I think that's where my second attempt starts. Let's play. That looks convincing. So I'll go back to here, click to the beginning again, and now because I want to get in quite close and do some fine editing, I'm going to zoom in on the timeline, and the timeline always has a zoom bar. So here we go, in we go, zooming, zooming, zooming. And that means that the distance between this bit of this end of the timeline and this end of the timeline isn't actually very much in the amount of film that's there. So as you can see, I've got the waveform that helps, so I can see where there's a nice bit of silence to come in on. Obviously I do a big head nod because, you know, I'm probably concentrating. So I'm going to actually move my playhead here, and I'm going to click, and there's the playhead. Now every single non-linear editing software has some sort of blade tool, a razor tool or a split tool or a cut tool. They call them different things, but the essence is that you're putting a razor through the film. Now that is analogous to the old-fashioned way of editing film where you use a razor blade to cut through the film itself, and that's how you can make a splice. So because I want to cut the film here, I'm going to leave the playhead where it is. I'm going to go up to my modify thing. It's called split on iMovie. I'm going to go split clip, and it's split it at the playhead. So a razor tool, a blade tool, a cut tool, or a split tool will do that. It'll put a cut in your picture. So I don't need anything on the left of this. That's a bad take, and this is the good take. So what I can do now is select this by clicking on it, and the yellow box goes around it in iMovie, and I'm going to delete it by hitting the delete key on my keyboard, and it's gone. And now my good take has moved right to the top of the timeline. So now when I press play on my video, I get just what I want. Now, let's have a look at the other end. There we go, we can see from the waveform that the music, this is the last chord that I've played, and there's me damping the strings, and I'm happy that that's the end. So I don't want that. I want to finish here, so I shall click, leave the playhead where it is, go up to modify, split the clip, click on this, hit delete, and I've now left it to the end. So that's as simple as it gets. You can tidy up the beginning and end of a clip, and that is now ready to be published, so long as the music playing is good enough. So I'm now going to show you how to augment this recording with something a little bit different. So what I also did, whilst I recorded myself playing this little clip of Marco, is to have another shot running on a phone. So this was recorded on my computer, but there was another shot that was taken on my phone as well. So now I'm going to import another piece of media into my library, which is called Marco 2. And as you can see, this was filmed at the same point as when I was filming this, but just from a different angle on a phone. So what I'm going to do now is pull this down and put it on the end of the timeline. So this actually repeats this here. And if we remember, I had a false take, and then I had another good go, which I was pleased with. So it was around here, as you can see from the waveform, where the beginning is. I'm going to click, I'm going to split this by going modify, split. I'm going to throw away the first take by clicking on it, clicking delete. And now I've got 2 takes of the bit of music on 2 different shots. Now one thing I can do is lift, pick up, drag, and lift this and put it over the top of my other take here. Now what I'm going to try and do is match the 2 up so that they're synchronous. And if I can do that, then I can cut between the 2 shots and make a nice little film. So here we go. I'm going to navigate in by clicking the playhead at the beginning of the piece, zooming in as close as can be, and now I'm actually going to use the waveforms to match it up. You can see that the sounds are basically the same. They're at different levels because one's on the phone and one isn't. And what I'm going to do is click and position this one over the top so that they match precisely. So it's not quite right. I just have a look there. Now let's zoom in. Can I zoom in even further? No, I'm at the max zoom. But that looks pretty good to me. They're pretty together. Now I'm going to mute this one. And there are various ways of doing that in various different bits of software. But what I'm going to do here is just drag down that. And I know that that's going to go to 0% volume. There are various ways of doing it. You'll have to use whatever software you've got in front of you. But it's pretty... you'll be able to find it fairly easily. So now I've got 2 layers of video, the bottom layer and a top layer. So the bottom layer is that shot and the top layer is this shot. Now what I want to do is just use that shot, the close-up of the lute, where I want it. So I think I want to start on the shot of me in a wider shot. So I'm going to reduce the size of this. Now I could use the blade tool to do that, the cutting tool, to cut and discard bits of the video that I don't want. But instead I'm going to drag the end of it. So what I'm going to do is just for now pull this back a little bit and see where we end up. So that now I will put, say, here. Now let's just zoom back out on the timeline and see where we are. And I'm going to play this. So that I don't think that's a very good cut, because the cut should be motivated by a musical reason in this case as to why you'd want to cut from one camera to the next. So let's have a listen again and choose where we want to cut the camera. Maybe I'll do it there on the cadence. I paused it. Let's have a look. And I can then slide this over to here. And to repeat the trick, I'm going to go back to the other shot at a similar point. So now I'm going to grab the other end of the close-up, move it to where I've stopped the playhead, plonk it there, and then watch over the edit. So there we go, I've now got a little edit together of two different shots of a little performance.